on now.
The SuperFoiler is an absolute beast.
Coming up, no lower. No more pressure here.
High powered, super quick, very hard to manage.
Jim's on a little there.
The power of the SuperFoiler is just insane.
Thanks, Jim. No better pressure out here.
The G's when you're out on the trapeze, like no other boat I've ever sailed.
Go forwards a lot.
Power in the SuperFoiler is like hopping in the fastest car and going from 0 to 100 in a few seconds.
When things go wrong in the SuperFoiler, it's like no other boat. It goes from a little bad to very bad in a very short period of time.
If you basically stand on the roof of your house and jump off and land on your back, that's pretty much what it feels like as you go down the mine.
Oh! Hey! From the bow, yeah, we're all good.
If you mess things up, it can go bad pretty quickly, so...
I guess the best way to describe it is probably violent.
It is exhilarating, it is thrilling, and I just can't wait to have more.
You've got some of the absolute best dinghy, skiff and multi-hull sailors in the world.
These boats are going to push us as sailors further than we ever have before.
The SuperFoiler is the latest and greatest boat on the water. It's going to be fast and it's going to be exciting to watch.
Adelaide turning on the charm again. This glittering backdrop, the scene for our climax here at the SuperFoiler Grand Prix in South Australia.
Oh, it's beautiful out here, Nick. We've got blue skies, clear water, the sea breeze has filled in. We've got 3 races scheduled for today for the hydrofoiling machines. They're all going to count double points, so it's really close. It could be open for anyone to take the win. Now, they've all had a lot of time in the boats and their experience is up there, so it should aim for really close racing.
Fingers crossed for that exactly, Tess. Double points on offer, but Euroflex still very much the team to catch.
In just the second ever race in SuperFoiler's debut regatta, Euroflex continued where they left off in the twilights.
But as expected, Euroflex off to a rocketing start on leg 1.
Leading at every mark, the terrific trio put on the afterburners under the burning South Australian sunshine. The ID boys rising to the challenge, taking the fight to pavement.
40 seconds behind ID and pavement a further 5 seconds behind them. So certainly a hot battle for second and third at the moment.
Nothing between pavement and ID, as close as it gets.
On the water, an amazingly close finish there. I can't believe it. 2 seconds between ID. They've come from the heavens.
Race 3, this time Steve Thomas and co jumped the queue.
And who's that towards the front?
Pavement there with the rainbow sail. Looked like they've got the leeward position off this start, really leading in towards the ship.
Though Euroflex's dominance soon became clear as they put a kilometre gap on the next best.
Nick, just looking at the Euroflex tacking for the final time going into the top marks. The breeze is built and is now at about 17 knots. This is going to be a big bear away.
Further adrift, the Kiwi contingent, Record Point, pointing it in the wrong direction.
It's Record Point who are in serious trouble. It looks like they may well be going turtle there as our chase boat gets there.
The recovery team working overtime but unable to salvage Phil Robertson's ride in time for the final race.
coming up now. Maybe they had to get the boat into deeper water as well. They might have been too close to the boundary line.
They're all going to try and be going as fast as they can.
With the clubhouse in sight, Paul Campbell-James and the lads aboard ID ratcheted up the pressure, leaving the Dream Team in their wake for the first time in Superfoiler history.
Oh, it's a great manoeuvre and obviously a gutsy positioning from Paul Campbell-James to say, you know what, I'm ready to take the fight to you now. You've had enough time in the Sun Euroflex. Step back a little.
The trio up for the chase as ID's skipper was up for a swim.
We've lost someone overboard there. In fact, I can't see who it is yet, but they were going so fast and they don't have seatbelts, so he's Gonski's trying to doggy paddle back.
Continuing on without their skipper, the crew piloting the Superfoiler.
That's classic work by the boys. I know Fang would have the bit between his teeth. He just loves this stuff. So he said, "Buggy you, CJ, I'm off."
He's grabbed the helm and they're sailing the boat.
Finally dry, CJ's Big Three settling for second behind the Dream Team as Olivia Price ignited CleanMade's campaign.
Olivia's done exceptionally well. She's got a great crew with her, Josh McKnight, Matthew Chu. They're doing an amazing job.
All four machines scrambling into the points.
Checking those regatta points now, Euroflex, an unblemished record, 24 points, clearly the front-running marker there. ID in stalking distance on 19, Pavement 2 very close on 17, CleanMade and record points still in contention, 12 and 11 points respectively, but it's double points this time around, so Tessa Parkinson, what a program.
Yeah, look, it's really cool. We had one race on Friday due to the strong winds, 3 races yesterday, 3 last ones scheduled for today. They're all double points. We've got a beautiful sea breeze. We've had a lot of things happen, people overboard, hit marks, gusts, lulls, boat speed, so today should be a lot of fun.
Well, it should be, Tessa, and we've been harping on about how beautiful the water is here in Outer Harbour, and I think one of the sailors might have heeded that message a little too closely. That's what happened to Paul Campbell-James when he went for a swim.
It looks like they're going for an nice positioning for that tack, good timing before that container ship so they can go in that bit further there. Coming out, they've just got to get into that more pressure and really speed build again to get flying.
We've lost someone overboard there. In fact, I can't see who it is yet, but they were going so fast and they don't have seatbelts, so he's Gonski's trying to doggy paddle back.
Wow, I'd say they'd be radioing in for a jet ski because the jet skis are allowed to come and pick the sailors up from in the water and put them back on the boats. That's allowed in the game, and then they can continue racing.
But I will say this opens the door even more for CleanMade to come roaring past because you can't slow these things down. He's going to have a heck of a challenge getting back on board.
Here we go, stopping the boat. Does look a bit like a 49er the way they're handling it here, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, it's not easy to get someone else on board here.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say these Pro Guard guys, they are the best in the business, so they'll be making sure the transfer is
here
as
at
safe,
Euroflex at the top mark.
is as safe as possible there as well. So look at them get right in.
There we go, jump back on, and look, they're back in the game. They're back in the race. That was pretty awesome, pretty quick.
Sharks. We're in Australia. We read an article last night about some shark attack off the coast recently, real close to here, and that's the first thing that goes through my head. Well, actually swim as fast as possible, see if I can get back on, and then, yeah, but actually the jet ski lifesaver guys, they're all over it. You know, you wouldn't want anyone better to come and pick you up, but yeah, it's quite nice to have a little cool down as well. Out the back, it's the first time I've ever fallen out of a boat in my life. But yeah, the boys seemed like they were doing pretty well without me, so I kind of delayed getting back on because I think we were gaining without me.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see those numbers, who has the bragging rights at the dinner table tonight, because if Fang's driving that thing better, CJ will be getting an absolute earful.
Yeah, Fang's just off here, he's not worried at all.
Paul Campbell-James worried about sharks there. If I was him, I'd be more worried about my swimming technique. That was the worst breaststroke I've ever seen. Tessa Parkinson, it was terrible, wasn't it?
Yeah, maybe that's a reason why they're sailors and not swimmers, hey? They can definitely sail a boat fast.
That's sure right. Although Tech 2 had some troubles sailing earlier in the week. We've got some vision of this, Tess, and what exactly went wrong here?
Look, I can't imagine what it would have felt like to be on board. You just, you don't sail along at top speed expecting some structural damage to occur, so the 3 people flat trapping. They were going at the reaching angle so fast, and you can see that rudder, the leeward rudder, twisted off, and that impact caused the hull just to shear away, and you can see the boat just fly up and the stern go in the air. Sam's hit the front there so hard, flying forward off that trap there. You can see he's just hanging, and the first thing the boys say is everyone all right?
If we don't flip it over.
Yeah, well, safety is obviously of paramount importance. Sam Newton, probably one tough cookie, the toughest cookie of all the cookies in this pretty impressive jar we've got on the SuperFoiler Series. And there's an idea of the damage. Aidan Menzies with a piece that really looked like driftwood. We're on the water, getting ready for the first start, and our man on the water's edge is Jack McCartney. Jack, how are the conditions down there?
Yeah, g'day Nick, g'day Tess. Great to be out here this afternoon. We've got a building sea breeze. It won't be quite as windy as yesterday. I think we'll see 12 to 14 knots maximum, but that's just stunning conditions here in Outer Harbour, Adelaide, for the final day of racing. Something I've noticed in the conditions on the water is there's a lot of weed in the water. So if any of the boats get some weed wrapped around their foil, that could be pretty dramatic on their effect to get up and foil. So watch out for some touchdowns today. Over to you.
Really superb insight there from Jack McCartney. Not something you'd be able to really appreciate unless you were on the waters. What kind of impact would something like that have? Would that be a catastrophic kind of race impact, Tessa Parkinson?
Look, it's really hard because the boats travel at such high speed. Trying to avoid some seaweed in the water is almost impossible. I guess you just hope that if you get some on the foil that you're going quick enough that it falls off again straight away so you don't get any cavitation.
Absolutely, and one man that knows a fair bit about what it's like on the water is our very special guest returning today, James Wasbowski. Thanks for coming back.
No worries, thanks for having me.
Oh, beautiful stuff, isn't it? Looking at these pictures, and this is probably something you don't want to have another look at. This is why you're here. What exactly happened?
Yeah, look, this is pretty painful to watch. A small mistake that basically when you know the boat's going to go down, you have two decisions. You either try and hold on or you let go. And here in this one, I thought I could ride it out, and my foot just got caught in the toe strap there. So a bit of damage to my knee there, nothing too severe, but I actually ended up hitting my back as well on the hull. So a free trip to the Cairo as well.
Well, you were saying actually that was more painful as you writhe about in agony. It was actually the back that you're initially worried about, and you were wriggling your toes just to make sure everything was working.
Yeah, as soon as I hit the hull, I think I heard my back crack about 8 or 9 times, and just hanging there upside down, gave my toes a quick wiggle and make sure that everything's still working and attached.
Well, these are some great pictures. We're live now with Olivia Price riding on board Clean Made. Olivia has such delicate touch. Let's listen to what she and the crew are talking through as we get ready aboard Team Clean Made.
So loving up.
We've got Josh McKnight there towards the front as the start's just 2 minutes away. And what are you making of this, Jimmy? What are you sort of seeing from Olivia Price, our silver medalist from the London Olympics here?
Yeah, so you can see the black and white buoy there on your screen, and that's what we call the pin end of the start line. So the start will be between that buoy and the start boat with the orange flag. So they just check their angle coming off the line on port, and perhaps that's a strategy they're thinking about with 1:45 to go. Do they start on port and go out to the right side of the course, or do they start on starboard and go left?
Well, Olivia Price, Tess, she's known as being a real fighter as we jump back on pavement with Steve and the boys. Any different preparations in setup that you would imagine, Tess?
Yeah, James and I were having a bit of a conversation earlier about what differences they do with their setup. They've obviously all got the big size jibs on, so maximum area with the lighter breeze we've got today, and they'd be looking at this slingshot start here, really just setting up and having position. We're calling down into the last 1 minute preparation to the start.
Let's have a listen. And of course that was our 1 minute warning, as Steve would have great understanding of that. He's a frequent Googler, loves his Wikipedia.
So in the pre-start in this last minute, they're really alert. There's a lot going on, looking up the course at what pressure they're going to sail into as they hit the line. And then it's all about time on distance and when they pick their acceleration.
Let's take a listen.
33, 32, 31, 30 seconds.
Dan Morris calling out the time there. They know exactly
25.
how close we are.
Turn up a little. 20.
19, 18. Okay, hold there. That's good. 16. You got a window here.
I worry that Dan Morris's counting's a little off there.
8 to the line. 10, 9, 8. I would go. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You called it, James. We've got a port tack approach from Record Point, ducking underneath the fleet there.
A little bit of inside knowledge, I imagine, there, Jimmy. I wonder how Phil Robertson feels about you giving away his best secrets.
Yeah, so this is a classic move from Phil. What he's trying to do here is get out of sync with the fleet. As you can see, there's 4 boats going one way, and he's the only one going the other, so he's got fresh breeze, and he's going to hold on to that the whole way up the beat as they bounce off these boundaries.
Well, his boat is Record Point, but they nickname it the Dark Horse, and he's going for a dark, shadowy manoeuvre on the other edge of the course there as Euroflex has some clean air as well. Really, a resumption of her dominance yesterday, perhaps. That'll be of great delight to her sponsors from Italy who are in town. And this is the boat that's gone the other direction, Record Point. How's it looking, Jimmy?
Yeah, they're looking good. So Phil's got on the bow is Neil Hunter. He's from Scotland, and he's a sailor from the BAR America's Cup team. And in the middle there's Tom Clout, who's done 3 legs of the Volvo Ocean Race last year with the Scallywag team.
And speaking of scallywags, there's a real scallywag on board ID, Paul Campbell-James. I heard he dodged a boom gate on the way to the race course today, so he's a tricky manoeuvre, that one, as Euroflex put down the gas pedal, and Cleanmate looking to reel him in. 20 knots of boat speed. She's the fastest on course. Let's listen to why.
Setting up.
Yeah, board. 2, 1.
Some great work there from Olivia and the crew, yelling. Josh McKnight also in the thick of the action as they jump up there. They can see Pavement and Euroflex within touching distance.
So James, the bowman really owns the manoeuvres with lifting the boards up and down. That board's got to be all the way down on that windward side before they can start the tack, so that they've got lift to be able to try and build speed and get the boat up on that airtime out of the tack.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see right there Dan Morris on Pavement pulling that board up. Pulling the board up is the easy job, and getting them down is hard. You can see that when he uncleats that board, it almost fires up into the boat because there's so much lift on that foil. So,
and at 14.5 knots, who's doing most of the talking? Let's find out if Stevie's talking or listening here.
Gap coming up. All the way to the wall. Good pressure at the wall.
Sounds like that's calling. There's good pressure close to the rock wall.
Yeah, as we go close there too, you can just hear. Look at the force of the boat you can hear there. That looked like a really well executed manoeuvre. And it seems to me that Reese in particular, that's the bloke in the middle there, Reese Mara, is doing a lot of the strategical calls at this stage of racing.
Yeah, so Steve Thomas is going to have his head in the boat a lot. He's going to be keeping his rakes all in control and trying to make sure the boat's flying. That's going to allow Reese to take on the strategy and tactics, looking up the track and calling their ley lines.
As the wind whistles through, it is really a nice idea of just how quickly they're going as Euroflex continues to fly the flag out the very front on this, our first leg of our 5th race of the regatta. But it is a lot closer, as we can see, particularly as Pavement are starting to ratchet up some impressive numbers in terms of knots. There is a lot of speed across the first 3. Cleanmate might be in a little bit of a shadow at the moment, a little bit slower than the others. So we ride back on board with Steve and Pavement.
You can hear something on board. They're calling really accurately is the pressure. You hear them call.
Don't think the button worked that time. I'll keep going. Hopefully it starts working more.
Gust on 3, 2, 1. Up on now. Get soft. 2, 1. Soft. Pressure on the rocks.
Setting up. Yeah. Set up. Pressure on the rocks. Come on.
Cancel.
Dan Morris, I heard a come on from him. He hasn't been in Australia long, but he's already channeling Leighton Hewitt. That's good to see.
Yeah, great to see that from Dan. He's obviously got a fair bit on trying to get that board down. Obviously, you try and do it as fast as you can so that your speed stays up high and you can begin that tack.
It looked like actually in the tack, the head sail, I heard Dan Morris calling clear the head sail. It must be the big jib sometimes just gets a little bit caught on the way through with that bowman having to also move through in front of the mast. Now, Euroflex here, they've rounded the first mark of the first race today, going in for a nice foiling bearaway. And, hey, James, we had a discussion earlier about today all of the teams most likely sailing downwind with both of their main foils down in the water.
Yeah, sure. So that's going to help them create that lower mode downwind with so many boundaries. What they're trying to do is one less job.
And the boys on pavement putting on a show. Let's listen.
Board up.
Climb in for the bearaway. Like there. Yep, that's it. Here's jib. Yep. Stand by, go board. Go. 2, 1, turning.
Gee, they weren't far from the breakwater there, and Cleanmate is in really close quarters to them.
Yeah, you can see here, that was quite funny from Steve calling 2-1 go. You can feel how much pressure these guys are under just from the intensity in their voices. So let's have a listen on board Cleanmate.
Take a look out, Luke.
You can see just the concentration in Olivia's face.
Fuck, guys, this is super slow. Ready for bearaway?
Yeah, bearaway.
Bring the boat away.
You can see Olivia there just playing with the buttons, making sure that the rakes are all in control for the bearaway.
I love that, and great manners, calling sorry as she slaps it down with venom onto the outer marine course there.
Yeah, I don't know how many other of the male skippers would be saying sorry, do you think?
Ready?
Yeah, not too many, I don't think. They say girls are very good at multitasking, so I think she's going to have a great handle of this downwind. She's able to play those buttons, sail the boat, do many things at once. It's very difficult.
Making it look easy at the moment, Olivia Price and her crew.
So they've elected to sail downwind with both boards down as well. That seems to be working quite well, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it's just a little difficult for the teams at the moment. We haven't done a lot of practice in this configuration, and you can see Maddie Chu there just leaning in, touching the button that's next to that windward foil.
And ID Internet, it was so impressive and sort of constantly in second yesterday, currently in fifth, and looking like it's struggling to get a pace.
Yes, something must have happened on the first upwind there. We just didn't see in the overview because they had quite a nice start. And it looks like they're just needing to get that hull out of the water and just get the boat flying. So possibly something went wrong on board the boat. Where we'll give you an update once we've got a bit more information.
Yes, wait out, sheet on.
A few British accents there. Thus the international feel of the series.
Okay, stand by, Joe. Joe, 3.
So the crews will be loving this. 2 boards down, downwind makes a little less hard work for the front crew member. Ed Towie's there. He can leave both of them down. He's just got to focus on his rake control and getting out on trapeze.
And Ed Powers did love being on trapeze. He's got great balance, a really keen surfer, as well as being a Thor Rangarook lookalike.
Yeah, Ed loves his surfing. I think he's incredibly good. And here we go. We'll just listen in with Team ID.
Yeah, copy.
can see there Ed at the front adjusting the buttons of the windward foil, that black foil in the water. He's adjusting the rates fore and back on that front foil. Now they're sailing downwind with them both in the water.
And I must say, look at Fangy. It's like wrestling an alligator there. He's getting those huge arms of his romping along. And it looks like it's translating into some pretty impressive boat speed.
The mainsail's just such a powerful control in this 12-knot breeze strength that we've got when they're sailing with all four boards down. There's a lot of load in the main, and they're working really hard to try and build their apparent wind. So sometimes when they can see the pressure, they'll steer the boat a little bit higher. There we go, get it up, flying out of the air. Once the boat builds speed, then they're able to really trim the main on and flatten it off to decrease the drag.
And Jimmy, they're certainly in contention. They came from more than 350 metres back yesterday. It's less than that from them. I mean, there is, you could throw a blanket over 2, 3, 4 and 5 at the moment, right through from Pavement, Record Point, Clean Made and ID as it stands.
Yeah, absolutely. They're all pushing really hard behind at the moment. And what they're all looking for is that magic gust of wind. What these boats are able to do is sail as fast as the wind. So if you get one gust, then you can actually just keep jibing, stay in that pressure and take it all the way downwind.
Look, this is basically a match race between Clean Made and Record Point at the moment, isn't it? I mean, the two are eyeballing each other. Jack McCartney, it's close racing. What are you making of it?
Yeah, it's very close between the Clean Made and the Record Point. They've been having a little jibe battle all the way down here. Record Point's rolled Clean Made twice and Clean Made has rolled Record Point twice. So excellent battle here in the middle of the fleet. Pavement just holding them off. So you can expect these three pretty closely together, I would say, at this point. Back to you.
Yeah, it looks like a real ding-dong battle there, and it's almost like a Formula One Grand Prix at the moment. Mercedes in Euroflex well away, and it's just the midfield who are really exchanging punches at the moment. And it's just a question of who's going to land the knockout blow as we ride on board with Clean Made.
You can see the gusty conditions here. They're just trying to keep the boat on this long jibe downwind in the most pressure. Look like the wind's built a little bit now for this downwind. The sea breeze has really increased. You can see Clean Made getting in close to that. The container ships aren't on our course today, actually, which has made a big difference. A lot more width on the downwind for them all to work with. So they've got a bit more distance between manoeuvres.
And it was really interesting to hear the skippers and everyone on board, just how much they're gasping for air. It's tough work out there, Jimmy.
Yeah, they're working super hard at the moment. You can see Joshy taking in the big ones there.
And I think Olivia's just reminding...
Tell me what to do to foil them.
Ooh, a little bit of tension on board. Let's see how this one's going to play out.
All right, now we're going to have to go one and in again. Copy that, let's jibe.
Didn't sound like there were too many sorries that time around.
I think the communication is just paramount on these boats to get right, and the teams are all under pressure because they've had limited training time leading into this regatta, so they're all trying to get used to the boats in this short course racing with lots of manoeuvres.
Olivia just keeping an eye on what's happening in front of her. The curious is to know the configuration of the other boats just to make sure that they've got an eye on them, and why not with such close racing?
James, it's just hard to come into these bottom mark ley lines with max speed. You can see there they just underlaid that bottom mark a little bit, maybe expecting more pressure coming into the mark than what they ended up with. And there's not a lot you can do, is there? You've just still got to run at that angle to the mark. Nice upwind here, though. That was a good rounding. They're setting up, getting a bit of speed here. Hopefully they'll regroup and get straight back into it.
Yeah, it'll be a tough battle between Phil and Olivia here. Phil's the match racing world champion and Olivia's got a silver medal, so they're both going to want to beat each other here. And it'll be going toe-to-toe the whole out this beat.
And, of course, Stevie Thomas is at the pointy end in second at the moment, and he's got a buffer over the man you were just talking about in Record Point. Let's find out how the boys have got it singing so sweetly. Gasping for air.
You can see in this wind where all three hulls aren't quite flying, they're really aiming to get a nice level of stability. So they're trying to keep that windward hull, the hull that they're trapping off there, and the leeward hull out of the water. And now they're flying. They must have got a little bit more breeze to allow the boat to completely lift out of the air. And James, we were talking about trying to have maximum air time over the duration of the race. So this is exactly what they're looking for.
And here are the experts of doing just that, maximising that airtime. I mean, James, looking at that, that is pretty hot stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, look, they're pretty dialed in these conditions right now. As I said, the whole fleet's gone away and watched the footage from yesterday's racing, and they know that this two-board configuration is what they need. What Euroflex know is what all the other teams don't, and they're trying to find these rakes, make the boat stable.
I happen to know that the boys on board Euroflex weren't too happy with you in the commentary, giving away their big secrets yesterday. Did they come and confront you in the hotel? Let's have a listen to them first while you ponder an appropriate response to that one.
Okay, coming on now. Trav down if you can to help.
Yeah, you can see Goobs on the front there, not working too hard, not having to play with that foil rake. He's already got it dialed in. He can just trim the Traveller. Glenn Ashby on the main, Nath Outteridge on the tiller.
Jimmy Wabowski just calling out Goobs there, Ian Jensen, for being lazy. He's coming for you, Jimmy.
I actually saw Goobs trimming the foil forward yesterday with his toes whilst he was on trapeze, so that's the sort of balance that he has whilst he's on the foil.
There's a lot of that, isn't there? You know, a lot of foot control when you're out there.
Absolutely. So when the boat's flying underneath you, the only way you're connected to the boat is through one wire off your harness and your feet standing on the boat. So it's a very odd feeling. Not many boats you foil whilst on trapeze. It's all about foot pressure. From your front foot to your back foot and just feeling the boat through your toes.
Tessa Parkinson on board with Pavement at the moment. Steve's just asked, can we make it? Reese Mara said, probably. Not the kind of answer he would have been going for, I don't think, Steve.
Oh, it just shows how difficult it is to pick it, you know, when they're still learning what boat speeds and what angles these winds are sailing in different pressures. And I'm just going to cut in there, Nick. I've had some interesting information from one of our sources out on the water to say that the team on Euroflex are looking at changing positions after this race, or even mid-race between the main sheet and the bowman, to try and, because it's so physical out there, maybe to relieve some of the working. So we'll have to watch that to see if the crew members start swapping places.
Well, it might have been in reaction to Jimmy commenting that Goobs wasn't doing enough, as Euroflex says sayonara in the Superfoiler, and they've made it 5 from 5. Too good from Euroflex, Jimmy.
Yeah, look, they're a real class act, and as Tessa was saying, you know, they could put anyone in any position on that boat, and that'd be still very, very hard to beat.
Well, they'll be really stoked with that, and obviously they've got a lot more time once crossing the line to obviously get their breath, recover, prepare for the next race, of course, and that might give Glenn Ashby some time to find the Omega he dropped in the middle of Outer Harbour yesterday. He lost a couple of $1,000 watch down there. So if anyone has a scuba tank in Outer Harbour, I'm told it's towards the finishing marker. So get down there, pick yourself up an America's Cup winner's wristwatch. Not a bad prize.
We have got an interesting tactic to think about with the points on the result board, though. With the 7-minute time limit between first and last place finishing, I was thinking that maybe Euroflex might start to slow down coming into the finish to close that window up, so that the 4th and 5th place boats would receive more points. But that mustn't be on their minds here, because they're clearly sending it on the downwind, really flying those hulls high and going for max speed. So here we go. That's that black and white checkered boy on the pin. They've just crossed through that finish line and completed the first race for today. So good work, boys.
Wonder what they're saying in their moment of victory as they keep their record intact, 5 from 5.
They look just so stuffed on board, don't they? They look like that must have been hard work, a massive sprint effort. Boards up and down, main sheet in and out, running from one side of the boat to the other. It's not easy out there.
No, I think Glenn Ashby was saying, put a fork in me, I'm done.
Nice picture there of Pavement, Steve Thomas.
Wait forward still, guys, we're sinking the stern. Stand by.
Looks so graceful.
One.
Yeah, so you can see they've picked up a few tips here. Their Traveller's been moved down. That's allowing them to sail this much lower mode that you see. As Dan Morris jumps on the wire here, he's going to trim that foil, and every lap that these guys do, they're going to be closing the gap on Euroflex. They're going to get these rakes dialed in and get the boat moving better.
And Tess has already mentioned the 7-minute cut-off window. What do you think, looking at the course breakdown there, Payment around 700 metres from the finish, and record point, ID and clean made about a kilometre back. Is it going to be another clock race here, Jimmy?
Oh, it's going to be interesting. It's good to see the record point boys up into third, and CJ's just battling with Olivia there. He's just overtaken her, so they're going to be going at it up the beat, but it's going to be really tight this one.
I'm starting to think that ID might have broken something, or one of the systems isn't working properly on their boat, because it's a bit unexplainable what sort of happened. We're not quite sure there, but maybe something happened in one of the manoeuvres. I'm sure we'll find out at the end of this race here.
Start sucking harder and harder. Is that +2? Yeah, so we got 3 then. Yeah. Just going 0 for now. Just on behind it's going to be 2-1 up on, main's coming on. Way straight easier. Right forward, boys.
A great graphic this one, obviously, seeing just how close these guys are to the finish now. Pavement really closing in on the line. ID not too far behind. But talking about numbers 0 and 2 were mentioned there. What was that referring to?
Yeah, so you can hear Dan just saying that the foil's at 0. Steve confirming that that's fine. So that's the windward foil that they're talking about. That has to be moved by the bowman, Dan. So Steve only has control of the rudders and the leeward foil. So if you see Dan lean in here, he's just pressing it with his toe. There he goes. He's put a little bit of rake on. And to build speed, they're trying to keep that foil very neutral, like it almost wants to push up or suck down, just very neutral. And then once they get going, they just keep adjusting it.
Sounding tense on board.
What do we got? Finish!
Wow, looks like he thought the gate mark there was the finish. Maybe he thought that there was another lap of the race. Good pickup from Reese there.
I love that. Where are we going? And Reese just slaps him down. We're going to the finish, buddy, and we're going there fast.
The thing in these boats is you don't want to be going the wrong way because you're travelling so fast.
Big gust on here, it's lefty. It's going to be both ways. That's my build angle.
So build angle that means he's going to hold there to build speed.
So as he builds speed, he's on a reaching angle, trying to get the boat moving as fast as possible, and they're trying to find their takeoff speed. So that's a speed that we know that the boat will begin to foil. Depending on the conditions, it's usually around 12 or 13 knots. So they're going to try and make the boat get to that speed as quick as they can, and then they'll do some adjustments with the foil to make the boat fly.
It's a lot harder to foil jibe with both of the front centreboards down, isn't it, James?
Yeah, so the key to a foiling jibe is going really quick before you start jibing. So with this wind speed and 2 boards down, they're going to struggle to get up to that speed. For sure they can foil a long way through the jibe, but to pull off the full air time the whole way through, they need to be going as fast as they can.
As Pavement get ready to cross the line, and we can see some of that seaweed at the bottom of the picture, perhaps, that Jack McCartney alluded to earlier from on board.
It's just got a feel. I don't think we use numbers anymore. Yeah, so I know you're answering back with what the number is, but I don't actually care. I just care that what it's doing. Yeah, so as we get fast and low, whatever, listen.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Yeah, copy.
Is he listening? Whatever there. A bit of tension between Dan Morris and Steve there. He doesn't care what the numbers are. He wants to know what's going on. And, well, I think they could be having some fireworks a little later on that boat. Thank goodness we've got our cameras on that.
It's a big thing in sailing to know what to say and when to say it. If someone's really doing a physical job, they're not going to be listening to what you're saying. So you've got to be pretty aware of the other roles. We're just going to have a listen on board here, Team ID.
Gee, how close are they to the spectator fleet there? That's fantastic. And Clean Maid filling up the sails there, doing a beautiful job. Olivia Price threading the needle. She's now into third and looking like she'll close out pretty quickly. Jack, talk us through it, buddy.
Yeah, the story of this leg is the Clean Maid ship. She's come from last to third here, so it's been a great effort by Olivia and the team. They look pretty comfortable to get third place, and then the battle's on for record point and ID.
Great insight from Jack McCartney. And obviously great finesse from Olivia too to really optimise the settings to get this boat to where it is.
So So one up, they're calling one to push out on trapeze.
As ID's really closed the gap as well, coming in hot. This is going to be one heck of a finish here. CJ and the boys, they've got her in the crosshairs. They're pulling the trigger, and there is meters in it. And not only are they racing each other, they're also racing the clock to get to that finishing, boy. Oh, my goodness. Will they cross? Will they get timed out?
They're going quick here, but 30 seconds left on the clock for them to get through.
Carry it. Okay, go now. Press. Yes, Josh. Don't snap at me. Cool it. Hey, good job.
Don't snap at me, Olivia.
There they go. Clean made across the line. They've jagged it into third, so they've gone from 6th place or 5th place to 3rd. Just bring one puff down that run, and now it's the battle between ID and Record Point.
And in fact, that battle is now over. The time's up. I wonder if there's going to be a bit of pleasantries exchanged between Josh and Olivia there after what was clearly a heat of the moment exchange.
Oh, look, I think it needs to be clear as to who's calling and what the responsibilities are on board. And if that overlaps or people have different ideas under so much pressure in a tight time frame, it's really hard to agree and have a conversation. At some point, I think a quick decision's just got to be made.
What about that from Olivia Price, though? I mean, that is an incredible effort on the helm there. To turn them round from honking in last, to race through, scything through the fleet, to finish in 3rd, under time, more points for clean made. That is massive, isn't it?
Yeah, look, Olivia's just, her results prove that she's very good under pressure and she can stay focused and keep going and focus on what's important no matter what happens, really. So I think she's pretty level-headed, and I think it's good to be so intense in the moment because it shows that how much you care about the racing.
Yeah, definitely. There's a little bit of fever on at the moment. I think one thing that's going on here is now that we have lighter conditions and you have to run 2 boards down when you go downwind, that's something that CleanMade did a lot of the day yesterday. They spent a lot of time in that configuration, so they're a little more dialed than the others.
And peeking through the race results now, Euroflex doing what they do best, running from the front, thanks to Nathan Outeridge and co. Pavement, Steve Thomas flying the flag, and CleanMate, I mean, as Jack mentioned on course, clearly the vote to watch there, and I can't wait to see what CleanMate do in our very next race. And of course, ID Intranet, Record Point, they were timed out there. That is going to be tough to swallow with so many points on the line. They're going to split the points there.
Yeah, Nick, I think they're only about 3 seconds outside that time limit, so that's pretty brutal, isn't it? It's just full on. And don't forget, Nick, that today's races count for double points. So that was a double point race score on the board.
So that was massive from Olivia. That's even more important that she's dropping the hammer today. And Jack McCartney is there chasing Olivia.
You got me there, Nick?
Got you. Can't wait to hear what Olivia has to say after what was a brilliant race.
Okay, we'll get back in there. Liv, that was a great effort from 5th place to 3rd. Tell us about it. Stay with me there, Nick. It won't be long. Jump on the...
Yeah, I'm going to jump on.
Still going.
Jack McCartney doing his very best there. Good stuff, Jack.
Okay, go for it, Liv.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. That was a great effort.
Yeah, that was exciting. It's really cool to be able to, race against these boys who are, pretty experienced in foiling classes. So to give them a run for the money is just awesome. We had it was a tricky day, a little bit lighter, so different to yesterday. But we're learning with every step of the way.
What do you think the key was today? That downwind mode looks to be absolutely critical. Tell us about that. You're looking very...
We've chosen to sail a mode that we figured out yesterday with the 2 boards down, and I don't know, it just feels really comfortable. So playing with the rudders a fair bit, and just kind of taking it as it comes.
Great job, Liv. Thanks, and we look forward to the next race. Back to you, Nick.
Thanks very much, Jack McCartney, with the hardest job in television on Adelaide's Outer Harbour. Needs some sunscreen. We need to look at the highlights.
You can see coming off the start here, Euroflex with that leeward position, and as you called it, James, record point starting on the port tack, trying to minimise their manoeuvres, getting to the other side of the course near those spectator boats.
Oh my goodness, near those spectator boats. They could have practically grabbed a beer from that one. They were seriously close.
Yeah, what do you think the spectators would be thinking on the back with a superfoiler heading at them at 30 knots, which you can't do much, can you? You've just got to trust in the skippers of the boats. Close crossing here. Wow, close racing. The difference in people foiling and touching down, going through manoeuvres.
And it was a great start from record point there, no doubt about that, Jimmy. That must give you a lot of joy seeing the boys do so well.
Yeah, I think their strategy really paid off there. Getting out of sync with the fleet, just straight off the bat, out of the start, did really well. They got to the top mark in third place, I think, and I'm sure they're just still getting this downwind mode sorted and dialed in. But I think we're going to see a few more boats starting on port in the next start.
Right, so Phil Robertson's already dropped a key, and you think people will be keen to turn it in the next one. And really, look how close these machines get to each other. It must be tense at times on that trapeze.
Yeah, absolutely. You just see their record point just rolling over the top of Olivia. Obviously, that happened a few more times down the run. But the big key is that actually when you get pushed back in the fleet and you're into last place, you get the new breeze first. So when the boats down the run fall into a lull, they're stuck. You get a gust, as I said before, you sail the same speed as the wind, and you can just go straight past them.
Yeah, it can be such an attacking game on the downwind, and if you're good at connecting those pressure lines one to each other, you can really keep your boat speed up and keep your flying time nice and high here. You can see quite difficult to get the nice stability, get the boat heeled into windward and get all those hulls lifted out of the water. So ID going into a dive there, little touchdown. We spoke about the new strategy the teams are using with both main foils in the water just to have that stability, lower angle. It's really hard to do the foiling jibes.
And we're back live now. Let's check in on those race results because as you've already mentioned, Tess, it's double points, and as we know, Outeridge and Co, 18 minutes and 27 seconds. That is a fast time across the course. And Steve Thomas and Co, they were rapid as well. Pavement really closing the gap there. Clean made, well, we've already spoken about just how great a race that was for an Olivia. And record point and ID intranet cruelled by the clock. And every time we see Tech 2 DNS, it hurts, doesn't it? Because we know they want to be out there. But we're out to the regatta board now, and a really good insight into how much those extra points just counted. Clean made surge up the leaderboard, leapfrogging record point in 20 points now. Euroflex, okay, they're at the top, 36 points. But I tell you what, Pavement will feel after that race that they can get on top of them. And we know ID Intranet had an uncharacteristically slow run there. They'll be looking to jump on the kangaroo and spring back towards the top in no time at all. No excuses from them on 25 points.
Yeah, look, I must say, Nick, being a female in the sport, it's pretty cool to see Olivia move up the leaderboard and get third in that race. I think it's really, really cool just to see a female out on the water there racing. So let's just have a listen to Jack here. Jack, what are you thinking for the next race?
It's looking pretty steady breeze, so we've got between 9 and 12 knots of pressure at the moment. I think the tide's settled down. I'm seeing less weed around at the moment, which is a good thing. So provided the other boats can get off the line, I think they'll stay a little bit closer to the Euroflex this race.
And Jack, it looks like it's really tough going out there. I hope you're doing okay.
Yeah, just missing the esky and the cold ones, Nick. But, maybe a bit later on we can get into that.
Good
Now,
stuff, Jack.
I've just seen we're rolling straight into the next one. You can see on the bottom screen 1 minute 48 until their next start. So right back into it for all these teams. You can see here they're just probably having a discussion on board about what their strategy is going to be off the line, where they're going to position the boat on the start line, close to the boat end, close to the pin end, what tack they're going to start on. James, we know that the starboard tack, which is the most common tack to start on, is right of way. But on the port tack, it could be an advantage in getting out, splitting away from the fleet and having to do possibly less tacks on the upwind.
Yeah, so a minute 15 to go here. There's going to be some critical decisions to be made. As you pointed out before, Tess, there's no cruise ships or containers on that left side of the track. So it's a very even track, and all you're looking for is clean air. It's a big jailbreak start. It's whoever, one guy gets away, and they're just going to run with it. So getting out of sync early, I think, is really key.
Now, there's a lot in these boats being able to control them under slow speed because they're designed to be to be sailed fast. So when they're going slow, it's quite difficult, I think, to maintain some level of flow over the foils so that you have got steerage, because when the boats aren't moving, it's really hard to steer the boat. They just rely on that flow to keep them moving. So there's a lot riding on the main sheet trimmer and on the jib trimmer as well to control the position of the bow. So positioning on the start line here, we can see we've got Record Point looking out at that pin end. It looks like they're going for another port tack approach.
Yeah,
Clean
18
made
seconds
starting
to
to
go.
leeward.
Phil's on port again. As you said, low speed boat control is really key, and now they're going to pull the trigger and let it rip.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And we're away. Second race of the day on our double points scoring system. So Euroflex flying off on that pin end. ID with a brilliant start as well in the middle of the line here, and Clean Made just crossing the line as we speak. Record Points decided to go for the port tack approach again, so it'll be interesting to see where they come out after the first split tack.
I imagine Phil wants another close call with the spectator craft. He obviously did have fun down there last time around. He's just going to go and say hi to some of his buddies.
Yeah, maybe they are throwing him some beers over there.
Okay, going into the first tack off the line here. Now, one of the things you always judge your start off is your reason for your first tack. So if you can tack when you want to, it's always means you've had it. So first tack for Record Point. Now the two groups from the left and right will be coming back together here, and we'll see how it's added up.
And it's business as usual. ID Intranet has really managed to keep a close eye on Euroflex. That's exactly what they want to do. Keep those guys in the eye line across the whole entire race to make sure they can pounce at the opportune moment.
Can be quite a good mindset if you come off the back of a not so good race. I think you have this feeling of being willing to risk more and push the boat harder and really sail it to its limits, and you kind of feel like you've got nothing to lose. So hell, why don't we just go give it everything we've got? And maybe that's what these guys on ID are thinking here, because they're flying the boat along.
And so is Clean Made. Look at them, they're rocketing along. What's happening on board ID now?
Big lean over, please. Lead on. Okay, stand by track.
See all that weed there caught on CJ's windward rudder.
1. Go.
They could well have got some weed on their foils in that last race.
As here we go, slicing through the spectator fleet there, giving everyone a nice close-up look at the prancing horse of our fleet at the moment, the SuperFoiler, the Mackay BD, but the black caviar of all these thoroughbreds. And what about positioning-wise? Are the boys shaking it up? Looks like Glenn's staying in the middle there. Who's on the tiller? It is Nathan again, so business as usual for now at least. They obviously know how important the double points are, and they don't want to muck around when there's still so much on the line.
I feel like the seaweed out there could be causing more problems than we think. I just saw on that close-up video there was some seaweed on the leeward foils of the boat, so that's just such a difficult sort of addition to be contending with on these boats because of the importance of the flow over the foils and the fine adjustment in your rudder rake. So the skipper's on the tiller extension buttons there, forward and back, and a bit of seaweed can really affect your feel and maybe make an adjustment that's not like relative to the speed or the height the boat's travelling. See if we can hear anything on board. We'll listen in to Euroflex.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to see just how well drilled these guys are. They do make it look easy. I spoke to Nathan Outeridge about that very fact, about it looks like you guys are on a pleasure cruise at times, and he said, no, look, it might look easy, but it is seriously taxing out there for us. They really are feeling the power of this machine and just how tricky it is to get it.
I think the skipper's got such a big responsibility as well for keeping everyone calm and confident and in believing in what you're doing on the boat. I think if the crew senses any sort of stress or, nervousness from the skipper, it can be a little bit off-putting. So if you can just be pretty decisive in your decision-making, clear in your communication, and just take it on,
for sure.
You're less likely to make errors out on the course.
Yeah, you can see CJ's got some pretty good wheels up here upwind. He's hanging with them. Right here, Nathan's going to throw a tack and just cover CJ. Make sure he doesn't get any breeze that he's not going to get either.
Go, Glennie.
Some very enthusiastic fans there. not quite able to hear what's going on there, but that is a great shot. Looking at this beautiful setting here in Adelaide, it has been sparkling conditions across all 3 days. We've been blessed.
Oh, Nick, it was amazing. We did a trip out to the rock wall this morning just to have a look at the course area, and we almost sunk in the mud going out to the course, so I think we're better based in...
That's absolutely right. It was like walking in tofu, very sinky out there. And here's a little match race, record point and pavement exchanging blows.
Pavement getting that windward position. If you're in that spot there, you can take the wind away from the boat because you're positioning them right in front of the wind here, right in close to the spectator boats.
Riding with pavement.
Fantastic. Probably take a little jib on when you get a chance. I'll get it. It's all right, mate. All right, calm it down. No more jib on, mate.
A real hip flex there from Steve, just showing us his core strength.
You can see him there playing with the buttons.
He's
controlling his rudders, controlling his main foil, waiting till he hits that takeoff speed, and he's going to add the rake and start foiling.
Seems a lot calmer on this leg on pavement.
Yeah, they might have had a little chat between races and just got the fever down, made sure they focus on what they need to do for this race. They seem to be doing really well now. They're not too far from ID.
Meanwhile, a full foil jibe from the guys on Euroflex before a little splash down at the end. Commentator's curse test.
Oh, look, it looks like they were starting to sail with the windward foil up on the downwind there, so it's a pretty good indication that the wind's built and maybe they're wanting to push it harder. We know with that windward foil out of the water they can reach a higher maximum speed and build their apparent wind higher, but maybe not sail as lower, so we might be seeing a different technique from some on the downwind here.
Yeah, so this is CJ's weak spot right here. Almost all of yesterday he had that windward foil up and was just sending it. It worked really well, the breeze is up a bit more, but now he's got to try and quickly figure out this two-board configuration. Seems like he's doing a little bit better now, but I suspect that when the other boats come around the top mark, they might take out a little bit of distance on him.
So, James, when you've got both of those front centreboards in the water, it changes the rake that's required on the back rudder foils. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So when we sail with just one, we might have 4 or 5 degrees of rake in, and right now they'll be on almost 0 on both foils. They essentially double the amount of lift they have in the water, and they need a lot less lift. So you'll see Ed Power is there on the front making small adjustments.
1, go.
That's an awesome job there. Full foiling job from the boys. Really difficult to do in these conditions, and they've absolutely nailed that one. That was perfect.
They really did stick it, and it's something about that calming British voice as pavement turns the mark there.
Yep. Okay, setting up drive. Setting up. 1, and turning.
Oh, that sounded like it was a little close to Stevie Thomas's head. He's not a tall guy, but that was a close one.
Yeah, that was close. Here's record point around the top mark. Something interesting Euroflex is doing is dropping the foil before they round, and here these guys have still got that windward foil up. They're going to need to drop it in the jibe.
Record point taking it right to the wall there.
Wow, that mainsail's so low on the boat, isn't it? It just acts like an ongoing foil away from the mast there.
Yeah, you can see Neil Hunter there as well, getting that board down. That guy's an absolute unit. He's almost twice my height, twice my weight. He's got plenty of firepower, so Phil will be stoked to have him on board doing the foils up and down.
Would he dust you in CrossFit? I know that's your second passion behind sailing, Jimmy.
We'd have to find out about that.
That was a firm no. As we take a look at pavement now towards the spectator end of our race course, really getting in close there and just giving the fans something to really remember.
You can hear the importance of the skippers. We keep hearing that on the audio, calling in the turn as they start to move the rudder to try and get the timing right across the main sheet trim, and even the body weight transfer across the boat with 3 people is super important, isn't it? Because if one person moves faster than the skipper's expecting, they've got to make an adjustment on the steering.
Little lift on that board.
Let's just listen to Steve here.
Lift on it, please.
Yeah, you can hear him asking for more lift there.
Yeah. That's all good. Back pressure here. Right in. Stand by. Big ease on this one. Okay, turning now.
They've got that boat moving absolutely beautifully there. You can tell that when things are all in sync and all right, it just goes on its own. You let the boat do the work. They only had one guy on trapeze, boat moving really nicely.
Good speed here. Early kick up. Forward.
Yep.
Nice. Take jib. Nice. Building in 2. In 1. Daniel, weight in.
Very handy up the front of the boat. Very good at swiping, I'm told, as well.
You could hear into that manoeuvre as well. Steve called
stand by.
Stand by.
That's too much fluid. Okay, stand by. Lead board and turning. 2.
Boys are doing a great job there on that boundary. I don't think there are any hard rules on how close they can go between boats. Sometimes they weave through and other times they jibe a little bit earlier, but they're always trying to extend as far as they can to those boats to minimise their manoeuvres.
Must be hard in the mount stuff when you're steering these top of the art, state of the art, world-class boats. The margin for error is so small.
A little more lift on limit board.
Absolutely right here. You're just hoping your skipper's going to pull the tiller at the right time and not make a mistake. Sometimes it's very hard not having control of the boat's direction from your position.
As all these teams have more time in the boat, they'll be building their consistency in their boat speed through the manoeuvres and learning how each person's moving through the boat, which is just going to make it easier, and they'll keep refining these turns with more experience.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see they're foiling a little bow up. Phil's got to put a couple clicks of rudder rake in just to lift the stern of the boat up. We're trying to see that boat flying nice and level like it is there. The 2 guys on trapeze now, weight right forward over that board. Moving nicely.
It's like an arrow on its way to the target, isn't it, when it's at that angle? It's just absolutely aerodynamically superior to anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. They're extremely efficient boats. How fast they can go in such little wind is truly phenomenal.
They hardly weigh anything, do they? And the rudder foils, it's really interesting how they control the pitch of the boat and how nose or bow down or bow up as the boat's sailing along. So if the bow does lift up a little bit, that's the skipper's got to do a little adjustment to bring it back so that it's level and stable through the water.
Yeah, absolutely. The rudder's got a huge effect on how the boat sails through the water, and you can see here CJ's got his boat nice and bow down. That's foot to the floor, full acceleration. The faster you want to go, the more you trim that bow down, and he can tell that Pavement's catching up. Pavement's closed the gap to ID. He's really having a push now.
Yeah, CJ's been throwing out some fantastic numbers, but meanwhile out in front, Euroflex is really putting on what it can only be described as a masterclass.
So Euroflex, they've just put down both of the main foils here. They're on leg 3 out of 4 of the second race of today. Doing a tack here, pushing out on the wires, putting the bow down a little bit. That's it. Windward foil comes up again out of the tack, and they'll be just trying to build their apparent wind, put the bow down here, really hang out, crew weight on the wire, little bit of lift. We'll listen on board Euroflex and see if we can hear what they're thinking.
Yeah, I'll run in as we go.
Beautiful setup for the top mark approach there. You can see they came in with enough distance on the lay line to really prepare for that manoeuvre well. So there's a lot going on at that top mark fairway, even though these guys are making it look so easy. And rolling straight into a jibe. Really tricky here. Looks like it's quite gusty in at the top there at the funnel of the outer harbour. Lloyd foil goes down. They're running with the same strategy again for this downwind leg of the race. Both main foils down. You can just hear Nathan there having the discussion about whether they're going to run downwind with both main foils down or just go with the one.
As we can see, Paul Campbell-James throwing down some seriously impressive numbers.
Right, like slow. More now. More now.
Around out here, there's one over by the left, still on the top mark over here. And you can also see the onboard footage as well. Always great to get onboard footage.
Beautiful shot of the harbour. We're back here with Euroflex. You can see they've got both main foils down, flying down the harbour. We'll just listen on board Euroflex, see if we can hear what they're doing with the trim of the foils.
Have your board down still?
Okay, so they've decided to continue with both boards down on this final leg of the race. They must be pretty happy with the speed they can generate and the lower angle that they can sail here with both boards down. So Goobs at the front here, unhooking just to adjust something in the middle of the boat there and then pushing back out. ID in second place at the top. They're just approaching for the final leg of the race.
Anything we can do to get power, please do.
Listening to the skipper CJ here as they go in for the bear away.
Chip. Nice boys, good work. On the boat in front. Get in. Get in. Drop it.
And rolling in for the jibe there.
Oh, look how close this is. At least from that angle, it looks like the pavement boys are really reeling it in at the moment, sending it, and they can almost yell and just let the boys on ID know that they're coming from them. And knowing Steve Thomas, the Sydney to Hobart winner, he's probably done exactly that, just giving them a bit of the old mental tete-a-tete.
Yeah, I think all these teams want to get in as close as they can to the spectator boats just to maximise that width and distance between manoeuvres. So they're willing to go as close in as they can.
Back on board with pavement.
Okay, potentially a board down before the turn here. Okay, slow trap.
You can hear on their final approach to the top mark, they're talking about when to put that windward foil in the water for the next leg of the course on the downwind. Here we go, we've got Euroflex. They're really close to approaching the finish line here on their final leg of the course.
Slow and steady here.
I've heard it all, slow and steady. They haven't been slow and steady all day. They've been fast and well drilled.
I heard a skipper call earlier, actually, that on the downwind just before the jibe, I think it was CJ saying, too much rudder lift, guys, too much rudder lift, which means that the boat could easily lift too high out of the water, cavitate, and then do that touchdown, which is what we just saw on Euroflex then. So it's really good communication from the skipper if he does get a little correction needed with the rudder foil, so the crew knows that the boat's going to touch down before regaining speed again. But look, they've got a nice run line here to the finish here. They can get that middle hull out of the water and just get the boat flying. There we go. See it lift up out of the air. All three on trapeze. The final gate marks they're passing now, so they've got to be pretty close to the finish.
Oh, you bet, and they've just got that purring along. Amazing run again. Nearly 20 knots from the Euroflex boys in barely a wisp of breeze. It's just hot, hot heat, and these boys are burning it up.
Final jibe to the finish. It looks on this course there's more consistent breeze in the bottom half of the course than what we saw at the top with those barroways. Little touchdown, and that's them through the finish. Oh, almost, sorry. Here's the race committee boat here. They've got...
So close now to victory for the Euroflex team. It's clockwork from these guys, isn't it? If Jack McCartney, you're down at the finish. What's going down?
Yeah, you can see in the background here the Euroflex coming in for another win. They've shown another masterclass today. So good on these downwind legs, picking the angles, getting deeper down the course, staying on the foils longer and guides. So just a really impressive performance all round, and they're showing everyone else how to do it.
Jack, who else should we be looking at, do you think? Where else is a really hot racing coming in at the moment? It looks like ID and Pavement have a ding-dong. And we've just lost Jack McCartney there. He's probably on his way to congratulate the Euroflex guys already. Get in their ear and hear what it feels like to be en route to a first regatta crown for them, as we're really just watching a masterclass unfold as the containers in the background there. It's a beautiful course that mixes some wonderful vistas with some working infrastructure as well. It's completely unique, not another race course like it in the world.
Team ID have come back with a solid performance in this race. So they're in second position here. They're halfway on the downwind of this race. You can see Fang on the main sheet clipping up on the wire there. They're going to point the boat up, gain a bit of speed, try and get those hulls flying again, build their apparent wind and just get this boat sailing in as they head towards the finish line. 318 metres from the finish.
Yeah, Steve Thomas will have something to say about that. He's coming on in hot. All the boys are on Pavement. And I bet you that ID Intranet are sweating bullets at this stage. They by no means have this one wrapped up, do they, Jimmy?
No, this could get really close this race. You know, ID's had a massive improvement on how close they are to the boat in front of them, Euroflex. But as we saw happen before, if they fall in one lull or if they jibe in the wrong spot, then Pavement can just come flying on past.
Tessa, you're an Olympic campaigner, you know all about pressure racing, but this has got to be as pressure-filled as it gets. ID should close this out. If they don't, all of a sudden someone looks like a pretty big idiot.
Look, I think one of the big appeals about this sort of racing is, you know, the adrenaline that comes with the pressure. And, you know, these good guys, they're so used to being under such a high load of pressure. I think they enjoy it, and it almost, the more pressure you're under, the calmer you become and the more accurate you are in your communication.
Well, I tell you what, if that's the case, Paul Campbell-James must be so calm he's meditating or might fall asleep because the pressure is heaping on him as the Pavement boys close in.
Yeah, look, one of the important things when you're under a lot of pressure is to keep talking and keep being really accurate with your communication. You can see nice jibe coming in. Both Ed and Fang both out on trapeze before the completion of their jibe there, and we've seen typically the skipper's the last one to move through because he's trimming the rudder foils the whole way throughout the jibe to try and keep those two foils flying. So they're really close to the finish line. You can see they're very close to that finishing boat here, about to touch down. Going to finish second place in this race, so great comeback, Nick.
Yeah, Control Alternate Delete ID Internet logging in for another second place victory. Second place, I should say, but it'll feel like a victory, Jimmy, for them after a sluggish race to open proceedings today.
Yeah, look, I was really surprised to see how good their jibes were on that downwind. As I said before, they didn't do much two-board configuration yesterday, so they've made huge improvements already.
And I imagine Pavement battling the clock.
What lift are we on this rimmed side? What's that? What are we on? You want trapping? Yeah, stand by jibe. 2. We got the finish line there. Yeah. 2, 1.
You can see the rudder trim just as they go through the jibe. So the skipper's trimming that rudder foil before he changes side.
Absolute love hearing that from Stevie Thomas. He got it wrong last time.
To get him off the centerboard.
And he was just making sure that was the finish this time around. He's won the Hobart, that's 628 nautical miles, but I feel like some of this racing would feel a whole lot tougher out there.
Now, Nick, we've got 3 minutes left on the clock for the finishing window, and we've got 2 more teams to finish on this last downwind, so let's hope we get another clean-made 380 metres from the finish line. They're closing distance in quickly, so there's a high chance that both boats will finish within the window.
Yeah, it looks like Record Point's closing the gap as well, so that's going to be really nice to see as they close in on some more hard-earned points. Jimmy, I know for Record Point it's been a regatta that probably hasn't lived up to their own exceptionally high standards, but that said, they've done supremely well given the new personnel on board.
Yeah, look, we'll just have a listen here on Clean Made, but yeah, Phil's still getting to know their names. He met them for the first time only a couple of days ago.
All the way down.
Sorry.
Boundary basically here, all
below the boundary. Okay, when you're ready. Paralleling the line.
Yeah.
Jimmy, would they have an idea of the timings and how narrow the window is for them to get home right now? 90 seconds and they're in the points. Would they know that to the second?
No, so these guys will have no idea how much time they have left to finish. So it's almost impossible for them to see the exact time on their watch that Euroflex crossed the line. So they're just pushing the whole way to the end no matter what.
And they are going to scrape home, and Olivia sounds happy as Larry.
Yeah, made it through the time limit with a minute 10 to go. So great, solid 2 races on board Clean Made. They should be wrapped with that. Really, really happy.
Fuck me, I got hit in the head so
Yeah,
hard.
I would say so. By the sounds of Olivia, she sounds very happy indeed. But the question now is, will Record Point scrape home? 300 odd metres, a minute on the clock. Jimmy, calm down, mate. It's fine. We're not playing for sheep stations here, buddy.
Yeah, look, I know Phil will be getting pretty frustrated by now. He's just got to find out a few little answers here and the boat will be off like a rocket. So I have no doubt that he's going to come firing back in the next race.
No doubt about that. I'm sure he's such a fierce competitor. You don't become a world match racing champion without being an absolute global superstar.
No, absolutely. There's almost no one better under pressure than Phil. He's out in some very big races, holds his nerve, and he won't let this rattle him at all.
Well, I mean, 15 seconds to get there. It is going to be probably just out of reach, we can say, at this point for Record Point. It looks like they're conceding that they're not going to make it there in time.
Yeah, it looks like they're just going to time out. 2 seconds left to go. They've timed out on this second race of the day. But look, we've still got one more race to go during today's schedule. So I think they'll just regroup, have a good chat between them. And both starts so far, they've gone for that port tack approach. So I'm just thinking maybe they'll go back to more of a or maybe consistent starting strategy for the last one.
As we take a look at the results here, Tess, Euroflex again in that 19-minute marker. That seems to be a sweet spot for them. Then ID Intranet closing in. Paul Campbell, James doing well there, as did Pavement and Clean Mate consistently hitting heavily. Phil Robertson, that'll only galvanise him. He'll come out like a bear and look to really make sure he's in the top 4 at least this time around. I wonder how that stacks up for the overall regatta, race 6. And, well, it's just been a shutout so far for Euroflex. Absolutely perfect. ID Intranet, well, they'll still feel like they can certainly get some pride in here. And Pavement and Clean Made also close behind.
I saw on those overall results as we stand going into the last race, ID and Pavement are on equal points. So it really comes down to the last race, who's ahead of who as to who takes that final second position on the podium for this evening.
Yeah, and I know how much all those guys love getting saturated in champagne, so they'll be fighting hard for that. They'll want to be up there for that winning moment, no doubt about that. And I'm sure that result will only galvanise the guys on Record Point as Jack makes his way over to Pavement. And he's really relaxing. He's kicking back, and he's even in bare feet now. Jack, stop it. We've lost the signal there from Jack, unfortunately. We'll try and come back to that. He is chatting to Stevie Thomas down there on the water's edge. And it's just incredible to think we can even try and chat to some of these guys. This will interest you guys, being the sailors. The distance sailed. I mean, it's chalk and cheese there. Record Point obviously covering a lot more turf in search of higher boat speed, perhaps. What do the stats tell you?
Yes, these stats are super interesting. As we expect, Euroflex, there you go. Highest average speed, lowest distance sailed. That's the holy grail of sailing. You can't always have it all, but here they've got both. And as Tessa pointed out with ID and Pavement, all their stats are almost identical here. So going to this last race, that battle for second place, it's going to be all on.
Tessa, I mean, that is so close. ID and Pavement, they are actually identical.
Yeah, they're exact equal max speed, 23.01 knots in the 12 to 14 knots we've got out there. So now we're going to just have a look at the highlights of race 6. Stevie Thomas on Pavement. listening into the crews here.
Yeah, I mean it's a great indicator of just how evenly matched most of the fleet is here, and just how fierce the battle is. And with bragging rights on the line, I mean these guys are going to spend the next month plus together racing around Australia on a circuit, and you want to go to the next destination, which is Geelong, with a bit of bragging rights for that flight across to Victoria. I guess the guys at the front end of the field will be bumped up to business class, perhaps.
Oh, look, these guys are all fierce competitors, competitiveness in their nature. It's just, you know, why they love this game so much. And you can see with the narrow boundaries we're racing in on this course, how quickly they get from one side to the other and how they're trying to set themselves up just to have that longest run line from one to the other and minimise manoeuvres on the upwind. So hard with the gusty pressure and trying to keep these hulls flying out of the water for as long as possible and still being able to operate the mechanics of the foils through the manoeuvres. So hard to not let that boat touch down when you're coming in such close quarters and dropping into lighter pressure on the outsides of the course here.
It's amazing as Steve Thomas's legs are tangled in a rope there, how that doesn't happen more often, and more people aren't like CJ going for a swim. These guys are on tippy toes, twinkle toes, Euroflex. They can't put a foot wrong. An absolute clinic here.
Yeah, look, what amazes me is how low the mainsail is and how tricky it is for the main sheet guy to get underneath and even get over to the other side, let alone staying on board and running as fast as he can.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I think I did see a little crew stop there on Euroflex. I think I saw Nathan Atteridge on the bow for a minute and Gooby driving, but we'll see what happens in this next race.
Oh, wonderful insight. Wouldn't that be great as Cleanmate goes right up to that. Fantastic stuff. And I love hearing that from Olivia. You mentioned it already, Tess, just how much it means. And she sounds like she's genuinely thrilled.
Oh, you got to do a fist pump when you earn it, that's for sure.
Well, it's not easy out there as some of the AFL's biggest names discovered.
Figuring out a way to not fall off, I think, is probably the biggest key, and enjoy the ride and take it all in at the same time. It's probably what I'm looking forward to most. We're talking a few horror stories there, which probably didn't help the confidence early days, but it's worth a crack.
Hold on. All right, look after yourself. Yeah.
Ready for the big jump?
Yeah, coming in. And then you kind of brace yourself with that one. Okay. And hold on to that black strap there.
Getting up to 50 k's an hour out in the water, it doesn't seem like that fast when you're on the road, but on the water when you're literally above it and flying, just saying you wouldn't want to fall off at that speed.
Yeah, a little bit nervous, but I put my trust in the boys and I'm sure that they'll look after me out in the water.
Carry on.
Amazing experience, really, really cool. It's, just the speed and even the agility of the boat. You just felt like you're always on edge.
It's amazing how quickly they move and how agile they are. Yeah, we're just holding on for dear life, so.
Thanks, mate.
No worries. Almost killed you, but...
Yeah, you actually feel like you're flying, which is pretty unreal.
Well, thanks, boys. That was unreal.
Brad Ebert, one of the toughest men in all of the AFL, a Port Adelaide power star, and I can tell you he turned into what we're looking at right now, water. He was petrified out there on the SuperFoiler, relieved to be back on terra firma as we listen in to the start of our final race of the SuperFoiler GP.
They'll all take over very shortly on the starboard. With fin bow lay will be their final approach to the starboard. Yeah, that's what that means. Speed on. They'll all be looking for enough room to root themselves.
One minute warning in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now.
1 minute to go.
They're all bunched on that side of the course.
Accelerating.
Let's head down to Jack and see what he's making of all this tense start line antics.
Yeah, sorry. Bowden's very much favoured here at the moment. Pretty much locked out, although they've got a good spot too. So here they go now with about 15 seconds before the gun.
Interesting to see here, Euroflex leading the fleet, trying to claim the pin. They've got a lot of runway. They're going to get this slingshot, try and hit the line at max speed on the gun.
They've got a lot of runway. It's like a fighter jet, and we're almost ready for blast off.
You can see they're opting for the longest run line all the way out to the left-hand side of the course. So we're on board Clean Made here. So sitting to windward of them is ID Intranet, flying off that boat end of the line. Beautiful conditions. Looks like the sea breeze has built a couple of knots here, so the guys on board will be pretty happy. This is almost optimum wind strength for these boats to foil through the whole race.
And look at this, we could get a close crossing here as Euroflex take it right to the limit of the aquatic runway.
Wow,
hold your
nerve
nerve
here. ID crosses ahead of Euroflex. Wow, they just kept in the pressure there. I saw that on the setup for the start there. ID, most windward boat, had the longest run line into the left. Let's listen to
Olivia seemed pretty tense there as well. There's a bit of chaos out there right now, a few hot heads because of the baking heat overhead.
I think CJ likes sailing with that bit of risk and boat speed and just really pushing it and wants to give it to Euroflex.
Olivia's blowing up deluxe there on the Clean Made. Not happy with the amount of room she had there, that's for sure, as Euroflex probably gave their sponsors who are out here from Italy today a few nervous moments. I can only imagine a few Mamma Mia's.
Yeah, right here you can see Euroflex very bow down. Nathan's got his foot full to the floor, trying to go as fast as he can. He's pushing it to the limit. Here they go for the tack, with Gooby pulling that board down.
And at this point in time, it's been a seamless regatta for Euroflex. They've won absolutely everything. Surely there's got to be a psychological desire to make it a clean sweep in this race.
Yeah, look, he's got the picket fence going. It's all first places at the moment.
And CJ's doing it again. The guy's gone mad.
And this is interesting to see them on split tacks. It's a real open game here because both boats are sailing in clear air and they're really pushing it hard to do their own game. So CJ's really, looks like he's maximising the distance. You can get quite lucky with how far you can go in with where the spectator boats are positioned. He got a nice long run at it. There's a lot of power boats out there as well, which can make it tricky for foiling boats. If you run over one of their streamlines, it can give you a bit of cavitation and make it hard to keep the boat flying.
You know what they say, mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun, and these boys are clearly ratcheting up the crazy. They want to make sure Euroflex get a heck of a scare here on leg one of our final race on South Australian waters.
You can see the subtleties in the main trim, just keeping the boat flying fast. We're on board ID here. Let's listen in to the crew.
3, 2, 1.
So tacking the boat here, their final turn on their last approach to the top mark.
This is just what the spectators want to see. They want to get up close and personal with the best in the business, the finest athletes in their sport, and they're taking the fight to each other. This is going to test Nathan Outeridge and the guys on Euroflex big time.
So you can hear there CJ calling weight forward, weight back. When they're trying to power up, you want to move forward a bit in the boat, and then once you're flying, you can really bring your weight back and help to lift the bow out of the air without too much control on the rudder.
Is there
foil.
a bit of damage on board the Euroflex there? It looks like under Glenn there's a bit of a kink.
Not sure. It's quite hard to tell from here, isn't it? You can see the main sheet just dragging in the water. We've just had confirmation, no damage on board. Must be a little design in the shape of the hull there. Just stands out from this angle, Nick.
Well, I was worried that they might have just got that rope caught as well. They're leaving things a little loose in the final race, maybe a little fatigued. And that's going to be something that ID Intranet is going to look to fully expose and at the very least give them a close cross here. Every single one, they're going shadow for shadow. It's a heck of a chess match
but the stakes are a lot higher.
Yeah, you could hear there CJ calling in for their final tack approach. Really close quarter racing here. ID in the windward position. Euroflex almost foiling here. The wind does look lighter in the top third of the course. Not quite enough to be consistently foiling all the time.
Jimmy, right now, tell me what the guys on Euroflex would be saying, knowing that they're getting the fight taken to them and that perfect record is in serious jeopardy.
Yes, I think they've got one more tack into the top mark here. The little difference I can see is they're running their jib track a lot further in, which allows them to sail higher than ID. But ID's definitely got a piece of it at the moment and would be ahead. So Euroflex only 10 metres behind. It's all going to be in this top mark rounding. This top mark rounding is going to be super crucial to get the biggest slingshot you can and send you down the run.
Yeah, Paul Campbell-James is not going to give an inch to the superstars on Euroflex. He is going to make their life a living hell out there for as long as he possibly can.
Big lanes.
Now that was quite a critical positioning of that last tack coming into the top because he didn't want to infringe Euroflex. They needed to tack at high speed, but they've got a good controlling position here because they're sitting in between the top mark and their opponent, which is the best positioning for protecting your opposition. We'll just listen on board to ID here.
Okay, here we go. Okay, stand by, judge. Driving in 3, 2, 1. Okay, setting up your goods inside them. Okay, here we go. Yep.
Every move could potentially have a massive consequence here. When it's such a fine margin, you really need to be on your game. And so far, ID Intranet has really had the better of Euroflex in the early passages as we make our way through leg 2.
Yeah, this is epic racing right here at the moment. You can see Nathan make a little uncharacteristic mistake there, just doing a little wheelie with the boat, trying to push the foil too early. He doesn't know whether to go up over them and try and take their breeze, or it looks like here he's going to position himself inside for the job.
That's what pressure does.
After going, here goes to the boundary. Standing right. Stand by, Judge. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Coming up the top.
Look at the boat speed there. Euroflex just starting to eke out a little more. 13 knots for them, ID 10. So the class, the cream of the crop starting to really rise up here for Euroflex.
Yeah, that was a really classic manoeuvre there by Nathan, doing a simultaneous jibe. Now he's on CJ's wind and he's going to have the first move back off the next
that.
bound.
Well, I just need to know. Someone needs to talk.
CJ wants more talk from the guys up the front. He needs it if he's going to keep throwing down the gauntlet.
Pushing as long as we can. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Go, hit the button, Eddie.
So he was calling hit the wire early, so wait out quickly out of the jibe so that he can speed up the turn.
My word, if Ed Powies was any further up there, he'd be off the boat.
Beautiful powered shot there as the wind increases and the hulls start to fly out of the water. Now, interestingly, looks like they've got a little bit of leeward leverage on that boundary. One of the benefits of being in the lead, you can really extend further into that boundary call on the lateral sides of the course and get a bit more distance in the widths before you turn around.
Yeah, exactly. So this situation right now is perfect for Nathan. He's in sync with CJ, so CJ doesn't have many options to get out of sync with him or go to the other side of the track. You'll see here there's going to be a really tight cross. CJ's on starboard and Nathan's had a bad jibe, so he could make an infringement here.
Yeah, and ID's crossed clear ahead on starboard there. So that starboard advantage coming back from the boundary line's a powerful position to be in.
As Euroflex is running into a bit more trouble there, the wheels are starting to fall off there. This is what pressure does, and it's heaping on Euroflex. Their perfect record in serious jeopardy right now.
We can see in the middle of the screen the two white gate marks that they're sailing down to roundabout on board Euroflex.
I mean, it's just incredible to think you've got the America's Cup dream team there, really. A winner in Glenn Ashby. He's crabbing there at the moment. Nathan Outeridge, one of the best in the
close
business.
Cross. Look, these guys would be getting pretty tight on board now as well. And looks like we've got a split down at the bottom, around the bottom gate marks. Euroflex, a little bit more speed into the bottom, but ID about to get around on that left-hand marker and head in towards the spectator boats there. So we've got a pretty clean split in this bottom part of the course where there's more wind. So we'll have to be an interesting first crossing after both of their first tacks when they come back together.
Jimmy, did did ID have any choice there? Could they have shadowed them, or did they have to try and shake something up? They didn't like the way the table was set. They've turned it upside down.
Yeah, they didn't have many options there, and they did have a bad rounding, which is not so great. But what is really good here is they're now out of sync with Nathan. So you can see in the top of your screen the red sails. There's ID. They're on the right-hand side of the track, and Euroflex, the blue boat, is on the left. So now they're out of sync. CJ's got a big chance to make a passing manoeuvre.
Now the other thing, they're on starboard tack coming into the crossing, so they're on the right-of-way tack.
Look at that. Fang's actually shoving Ed Powies out of the way. He's saying, you're in my real estate, buddy. I've had enough rooming with you. I need some space on the boat to do my thing and power up that main.
Look, they've all got to back each other up pretty hard now. We're on the third leg of the final race, so these guys have done so many manoeuvres. Ed would have pulled those foils up so many times. He must be getting pretty exhausted at this time in the game.
What about that for Cleanmate as well, just making things even more interesting, as our third place boat, Pavement, reminds us that she's very much still in the contest.
Looks quite gusty out on the water there. The up and down pressure is pretty tricky to keep that pitch of the boat and the angle of heel stable.
Yeah, so these Pavement boys are really in that race for second place overall. The race isn't over yet, not by a long shot, but they know they've got a lot of work to do to take that second place overall for this event off CJ.
Does Pavement have to take a risk here, Tess? Do they have to just absolutely go for something?
Well, I think all the skippers are just looking for stability and to try and keep the boat flying as long as they can. I think the main sheet hand, so Race on Pavement here, he's got a big responsibility. Looking at the pressure up the course, you can hear him pulling it in. Just trying to really link the pressures together. Sail as far as you can to the boundary on each side of the course, so you're not having to do as many tacks and jibes.
Coming up.
Gee, Dan Morris, he's like a Clydesdale horse, isn't he? So much power in those big American arms.
Yeah, you can see here it's really easy when you get the pressure. When the boat flies up in the air like that, not only does it really lift, but you lose some traction on the foils and the boat does slip sideways a slight amount. So they're just trying to look to keep that middle hull a bit lower to the water as the pressure increases.
Look at that stat down the bottom as well. ID travelling almost twice as fast as Euroflex at the moment. That gap we see on screen, the distance to leader, is coming down by the second. Look at that, eating into it. Someone on ID's hungry. They're gobbling up those metres.
Oh, this is an awesome contest here between Euroflex and ID. They've still got some separation in between them. We can hear on board Euroflex.
Just after the mark.
And just when the challenge was thrown down, the Euroflex boys answer it with distinction.
Here we go.
Pretty cool though. You can see how, as these other teams get more and more time in the boat, how much closer this racing's becoming and how they're all finding out little ways. It looks like ID really got the hang of sailing on the downwinds with both of the foils down for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a critical moment in the race. Euroflex could be on leyline for that left-hand turn, and if they are, they're going to be ripping it away well before CJ to get downwind. But if Euroflex can't lay and CJ's going to round at the same time, it'll all be on.
Oh, it certainly will be, Jimmy. This is what we've all come to see. We wanted to see the challenge get thrown down to Euroflex, and ID hasn't thrown it down. They've slapped it on the table and said, it's your turn, Euroflex. Show us what you're made of.
Here we go. This is where they can really make a lot of distance. The top mark rounding. They're on the foils. This is perfect. They can keep their apparent wind forward. Now it's going to be all three in sync, all three on the wire for this turn. Fully wicked up, easing main, easing traveller, more main foil rake to rip it away like that. Now they're going to be back up on the foils and into that next jibe.
This is our final leg. This is what it's all going to come down to. Euroflex and ID Intranet. There is so much on the line. Bragging rights for a week. If ID can drag this win, they're going to let Euroflex know about it for the next 6 days.
Oh, these boats are going so quick out on the water. Looked like they were going 20 knots against the rock wall. Then you can just see how fast they're flying past these spectator boats.
And at times Euroflex have almost toyed with the others in the fleet. They've gone into the spectator zone. They put on a show. Now it's pure racing. The shortest distance, the optimum speed. Watch them go. Interesting to see Glenn just give it a bit of a shove there as he jumps back out.
Very interesting here. They've got that windward foil up now. Total change to their previous tactics. They obviously just want to let the boat go extremely quick. They must be on the long jibe. They're going to make up a lot of distance here, or maybe take a big risk and lose some.
Pushing the boat harder can mean flying it a bit higher. You can see that leeward foil, the tip just piercing through the top of the water there. That's so that they've hardly got any wetted surface area under the water at the moment, which is when we see these boats reach their highest speeds.
Yeah, and look at that. Nathan Outeridge has just got on the Autobahn. He's got no speed limit. He's absolutely sending it. And the challenge now has been thrown back to ID. How are they going to match that kind of boat speed? And frankly, can they, Jimmy?
Oh, you've just seen there, Nate's made a call to pull that foil up and he's just ripped 200 metres out. Can't always do that. It must have been the ideal moment. He's not the type of guy to take a big risk like that. He must have known it was going to work.
Either that or Tess, he was feeling the pressure. He knew that ID were coming. They meant business. And all of a sudden, pressure's on. You make some crazy decisions sometimes.
Yeah, look, the cool thing about, and one of the big things I like about these boats is there's different options and there's different ways of sailing them. And the teams are all learning, what technique works at the right times. And now we're seeing teams start to throw in different techniques on one leg of the course. It's pretty cool, I reckon, just to see the different angles and different speeds that they can take off depending on, what foil combination they're using.
And right now for the ID guys, they must still think they're in with more than a sniff.
Yeah, look, they're still pushing super hard. They're absolutely sending it down this run. They're on starboard. This is the long jibe, the long one down the run, so that this is their chance to make some money.
God, you can hear the whistling as well. That's just showing how fast these boats are travelling. Both foils down now. They've moved back to their first technique. They must be comfortable with their position. Happy to sail that bit lower now. Rolling into this is their final jibe, it looks like, into the lay line of that finish line. We just saw the black and white checkered mark in the corner of the screen there. Looks like the wind's built. Looks a lot windier now than what we had before. And there we go, through the finish. You can see the black and white checkered mark. They've just crossed the finish line.
No, it looks like they're still racing. It's so hard to tell from where we are in the commentary box. That's the angle. It's still racing in earnest here for these guys. They feel like they can reach out and touch the finish line, but it's anything but for them. They're closing in though.
Okay, we see now the finished boat just to the left of Euroflex at the start. Now Euroflex is crossing the line there. We've got a really beautiful picture here of the outer bay, the black and white checkered mark on your right, race committee boat on the left. Finished for the final race of today. Double point scoring, Nick.
The challenge was thrown down. They've raised the bar and shown they've got the strength. They've Euroflexed it. It's a clean sweep. 7 wins from them. They'll be loving that. And the ID guys will be licking their lips. They've just had a little entree, and they know that Euroflex are going to be their main course come racing in Geelong.
Yeah, look, I think they're going to be pretty pumped to train hard after getting a bit of rest tomorrow and, figuring out what techniques work when on the downwind with just a bit more time to practice in the boat. And, I think they're pretty excited to, really raise the bar coming into Geelong.
Yeah, ID has put Euroflex on notice that it's not going to be clean air in Victoria. And that's not the only close race we're going to see, because Pavement and Clean Made are also out there throwing haymakers, and it's crucial for Pavement to get up there and get up there quickly.
So busy talking. More pressure this way. I took half off.
So Pavement here electing to sail. They're riding high out of the water there. Both main foils in the water. Looks like they're just trying to get a bit of stability. I think with these boats, once they fly away from you and almost start to take off and get that angle of heel, you've got to.
We've got an overboard. We've got someone overboard. They've gone for a dip, and it looks like Record Point have lost one of their guys. Is it the Scotsman? I heard they hate water. This could be trouble. That's probably his first bath in years.
At least the water will be a little warmer than what he's used to, but it looks like it's Tom Cloud. He's not swimming too quickly. Maybe he's got a little injury or something.
And, well, if he does have an injury, he's in very safe hands, because within seconds, the best in the biz are on hand. They're going to help him on, and we're going to watch this really closely now. The Pro Guard boys, they're all lifesavers. They're all at the peak of their powers as well. Just having a quick dialogue, making sure everything's okay. And I would say for now, he's up on his knees. That's a great sign. Gasping for air.
We heard, James, when you fell off the boat, how you can get quite badly winded, and just that impact of hitting the water can really, really shake you.
Yeah, absolutely. The boats go so fast that, hitting water at that speed can be a lot like concrete, but there's also a lot of carbon, the main foil, the rudders that hang down off the boat. If your leg or ankle or something like that comes into contact, it can be extremely painful and a bit damaging, which looks like that might be what's happened now, but he's in safe hands with the Pro Guard guys, and, he's a tough guy. He's done 3 legs of the current Volvo Ocean race with Scallywag, and he's going to ride this out, no problem. He's a really tough guy, Tom Clout, from Sydney Harbour. As Pavement coming to the finish line.
Yeah, they build them tough in Sydney.
Pavement's really protected their lead here in 3rd position on this final downwind. Only just finishing now. Solid result from Pavement.
Oh, no doubt about that, Tess, but it will be bittersweet for Steve, because he'll want to have finished on top of ID Intranet. He wanted to beat the Poms.
Oh, Nick, I just heard this. This is typical of the skippers, just wanting to improve all the time. I heard on board Steve then saying, can we just continue downwind and do a couple more dives to get a bit more practice in? So that's good value.
An absolute perfectionist, as Clean Made underlines her best day at the regatta. Well done, just dipping the nose, a little bit of a gesture to the fans perhaps, and certainly well within that 7-minute window. That is a blistering race. As Olivia just sucking in some big ones there.
Yeah, those guys look absolutely smoked. Matty Chu on the bow there, awesome moth sailor, really fit guy. He's down on his knees now. He's got nothing left in the tank.
He's a machine though, isn't he?
Yeah,
really,
Matt Chu,
really
he does a lot of big boat, keelboat sailing, so he's used to big races, and
As we go back now to Record Point, just checking in on what's happening. It's always good to see the sailor upright and strangely enough, just even looking like it hurts is sometimes a good thing, that they're able to process the pain. I know you were saying the other day, Jimmy, when you had your injury, you were almost in too much pain to process it.
Yeah, that's especially, sometimes you just don't know what's going on, what hurts more, or the boat's about to capsize on you, you're trying to get out of danger, and at least there he's in the safe hands. You saw Guy Endine, he's a super experienced sailor, he's our shore crew at Record Point, and he's a sailor for Team New Zealand, so he's in safe hands. Really solid crew around him there at the moment.
And what's likely to happen here is they'll give him a chance to catch his breath. They're radioing in now, most likely to make sure that everyone on the shoreline is ready. First aid will be administered. World-class care will be handed out. And as you said, he really is in safe hands. And it's always good to get a ride on a jet ski too.
Yeah, everyone loves a ride on a jet ski. But yeah, look, as I said the other day, no one knows the risk more than the sailors. Everyone's jumping on, knowing exactly what can happen, and he'll be all good. He'll be in good spirits.
Absolutely, and Euroflex will be on top of the world because they were pushed all the way by ID on that last leg, 38 seconds. That really is nothing at all. Steve Thomas, he was 3 minutes behind, but he's still out there racing, still perfecting some of those moves. And Clean made a great day for Olivia Price and the all Sydney-based crew. Record Point, Phil Robertson, a DNF for him. but he'll be back bigger than ever next week. Euroflex, a perfect 60 points for them. It really doesn't get any better. But, you know, something tells me they're not going to be too comfortable heading into that next regatta in Victoria, Tess, given that they've just been given one almighty scare.
Yeah, look, I feel like each of the teams are learning, you know, the exact way of sailing these boats fast and what techniques work in different wind conditions, and you can just see the gauge of the fleet really closing in. Close crossings here. You can see ID really putting the pressure on Euroflex. So, look, I think they've got 2 days training before we start the first race on Friday in Geelong. So with 2 more days practice, we heard Steve Thomas want to do more and more jibes just to try and get the feel of the rudder foil trim right, even after he'd finished the last race here. We'll just watch some of the highlights from race 7.
And look how close it was. I mean, magnificent job getting these the pictures in here. They are incredible. And it was looking at one stage it might be a photo finish. These guys, there was really nothing in it, and they're sailing it on the limit. It's just, it really is champagne stuff.
Yeah, I think as we watch more downwinds in this medium pressure range, we'll see the teams play around with different foil combinations and what to use on what jibe, and it can be difficult racing against someone when you don't know exactly what angle they're going to choose to sail at, James.
Yeah, exactly. A big problem we've had is, you know, we've been out there training limited amount of time and you're so focused on what you're doing on your boat, we haven't been able to see what other boats are doing and what other techniques might be working. So now the crews can watch this footage and see what other boats are doing, pick up all the little tricks, and as we expected, the gap's been closed extremely fast. There's CJ's snapping at their heels and Luke Parkinson on Tech 2. Once that boat's rebuilt, they'll be right in the mix.
I'm thinking, Jimmy, rather than watch the footage, they could just slip you a tenner and no doubt you'd reveal all of Euroflex's secrets.
Yeah, I can help out a little bit.
I'm actually really impressed with how well these guys are all managing the boats and being able to get them around such a narrow, confined course. I mean, you don't have a lot of choice to tack or jibe when you want to. I mean, if you don't do it, you're going to run into a container ship or a rock wall, so you're pretty under the pump to do manoeuvres in a really short time window.
And it just goes to show what CJ can do when he stays on the boat, guys. I mean, that was third race yesterday. He was out there going and doing some doggy paddle. Today, he was there, as Jimmy said, snapping at the heels of Euroflex. And Jack McCartney, what have you got for us?
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Here with the Euroflex boys. It's a clean sweep, tour de force. Tell us about that last race. It was a little bit closer with the ID ship.
Yeah, it was a really good race. CJ and his boys are obviously been getting better and better every race and pushed us the whole way around, and even on the last run, it was still anyone could have taken that one.
Glennie, were you a little bit nervous there, mate?
Yeah, look, I think those guys have been getting better and better, and the whole fleet, to be honest, has been getting better and better, every race. So whilst we've had a great couple of days here, I think Geelong is certainly going to be very, very exciting racing.
Goobs, I reckon you were key to this win. You were playing that little button downwind all the time. Tell us what you were doing up here.
Just trying to keep the boat in the air, really. Nate's playing the leeward side, I'm playing the windward side, and on 4 boards it's pretty tricky not to go bow up and stall the rudders.
So the first ever SuperFoiler Grand Prix event, the Euroflex team wins. Nath, well done. Let's get the champagne going, guys.
How good is that? Jack McCartney just needing to cool down.
Nice work, lads. So give us one final word going into Geelong.
Yeah, we're pretty excited. It's only next weekend, so we want as many people to come down to watch us. We'll probably get one more training session in before that, and I can see CJ in the background. He's up there training again, so we've got to get going and do a bit more ourselves.
I thought it was first to the dock wins, but back to you, Nick.
Yeah, Jack McCartney, that's one of his mottos. First at the bar, usually, Jack. But I think everyone's just trying to delay getting back because they have to pack up these boats into containers and ship them off. So it's going to be a huge day. There'll be a bit of celebration. There's always time for that. And, of course, good to see 3 back aboard record point. There was a few nervous moments there, but all the boys are back on there, sailing back, and that is always really, really great to see. We're going to check in on those series points now. How does it all chalk up as we get ready for our next regatta? Well, Euroflex won the day. That means they'll carry 6 points overall into the next regatta. ID, they were next best, so they'll take 5 across the overall standings. Pavement on 4, Cleanmate on 3, and Record Point on 2. And as we know, Tech 2 weren't present, but they are on 1.
Next week, Tess, you'll be relieved to see it's the same schedule, and we do have 3 races slated for Friday.
Yeah, look, it's awesome. So we've got the 5 series scores, so that 1 point score they've got from racing here in Adelaide will carry through to Geelong, where then they'll end up with 1 series score from each of the 5 events before the grand final in Sydney.
Well, what a blistering day. We've witnessed some of the finest superfoilers going round a brilliant racetrack. Thank you for your company, and a big thanks from Tessa and I to James and our man on the water, Jack McCartney. Until next time, bye for now.